Hi. I kind of stand before you to prove that I don't have a forked tail and cloven hoofs and horns. I do, however, I'm a 25-year regulator at the Ministry of Health. So we have a lot of experience. I have a lot of experience in regulation of medicines, or the non-regulation of natural healthcare products, and how all these schemes come together. The kind of mantra, if I have to use something from literature, is probably Sherlock Holmes saying to Dr. Watson, straw, 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 Dr. Watson, I can't make bricks without straw. And so much of what we do in regulation is driven by evidence. It's driven by evidence of all sorts of things, both benefits and risks and harms. And our job is, a couple of weeks ago in a teleconference, I got asked, and you probably want to ask me as well, and I noticed in the title that it does ask me, what is the Ministry of Health's vision for the hemp industry? And the answer is, that's your job, not my job. My job is to look at the law as is written, and I'm going to give you all these literary allusions of cheap literature. Stephen King's Pennywise the Clown. They're all regulated down here. Everything we do has a regulatory framework around it. And the biggest and ugliest and most powerful is the Misuse of Drugs Act. It's the Darth Vader of legislation. Because I can say that this substance is a medicine, but if the Misuse of Drugs Act says it's a controlled drug, the Misuse of Drugs Act wins. It's automatically in a pyramid of legislation. Misuse of Drugs Act sits at the very top. And obviously, last written in 1975. I have another lecture I give on medicines where they say, why do you need to change the Medicines Act? It was written in 1981, and I have a whole series of slides which says, so what were you doing in 1981? And it ends with a picture of me graduating from university. 1975, I was in high school. Many of you in the room may not have been born in 1975. And in 1975, the idea of us carrying something like this was in the Jetsons. It wasn't real world. Smallest computer in the world fitted in that space over there. So lots has changed. And it's probably time for us, and it has been for a wee while, if I'm honest, that we need to look again at the Misuse of Drugs Act and review whether it really does get to be Darth Vader or whether it should be somebody else. But it is just now. And so my job as a regulator is to look at what's happening, look at the evidence, look at the legislation and say, what are the risks and benefits to the individual consumer in this framework? And review that. Good regulatory stewardship, in my book, is about us constantly looking at those things and saying, can we be more effective? Can we be more efficient? Is there a better way to do this? Does this risk really exist anymore? And to some extent, for some products and for some industry, the Misuse of Drugs Act is like you're in prison. The hemp regs I'd put to you, for all their imperfections, is a bit like being out on probation. This has been going on for 10 years. Is it time for us to look again at a number of the things that are in the hemp regs? Absolutely. I think that the work here around moving CBD, taking CBD out of the Misuse of Drugs Act, making it a prescription medicine, the food standards work is a sign that things have changed, and it is timely for us to revisit the hemp regs, which, again, I'm going to say something that's probably deeply unpopular with you, but the official interpretation of the hemp regs is that was really mostly about fiber. It's not about fiber. Well, it's still about fiber, but it's about a lot of other things too. And it's time, and it's appropriate for us to take this opportunity to go back and look at some of those things. I know that Minister O'Connor talked about, well, let's move it into MPI. And I have to confess, when the earlier presentations were on, and even when Brian was presenting, I was going, man, why? That's a bloody good idea. It's not simple, but it's a good idea. I don't regulate corn, or I don't regulate any other plant. why am I so focused on this? And it's because of the Misuse of Drugs Act. So it's timely for us in a policy sense to revisit various bits of the legal presumptions and assumptions, and we're open to that. And I think we have a big opportunity to do that with the medicinal cannabis scheme, which I suspect you'll all want to ask me questions about, and the food standards work, because it requires us to open these bits of legislation up and revisit them and relook at them again and say, is this really what we need to do? Is there really, why do we have such a tight licensing regime around this? Was it because we were scared that, in effect, people would plant, a yard of hemp round the field, and then the rest of the field would be filled with high-potency THC-bearing cannabis, and we wouldn't know? So we all kind of grow up, in a legal sense, in a regulatory sense, and regulation, good regulation, is not it's written on a tablet of stone, and so therefore it can never change. It's actually about, and it can't be written in the sand either, okay? So it has to have something that actually holds a shape for a while, whilst we say, what's really happening? What are the risks? What are the benefits? Are they changing? Is there new evidence coming along? Is there new models of product development coming along? What is happening out in the sector that drives our thinking about risks and benefits? So I guess what I'm saying is our door is open to have those conversations. This is a good time to start those conversations because, unfortunately, with the Misuse of Drugs Act, it is a ginormous beast that is very complicated. And it may be that we might need to nibble away a little bit. We might need to eat that elephant one bite at a time and make some changes. Unfortunately, every bite of the Misuse of Drugs Act requires a parliamentary process. So it is doable. It takes a long time. It's pretty indigestible, but we are open to those ideas of how to do that. You shouldn't think of us as being faceless, nameless bureaucrats living in a dark room whose only job is to say no. Come and talk to us, and we will find solutions to this if we can. And if we can't, we'll say, this might be a good idea. Maybe we should do some more work on this because it creates a momentum, a pressure wave that says now is the time for us to revisit an act that was written in 1975, which actually means it was written in 1972, 73, when I was just entering high school. Because acts don't kind of spring fully formed in 1975. They're drafted over a period of time, and there's a lot of work goes in beforehand. So our door is open. If you feel we're not engaging with your peak bodies properly, then we have just started monthly teleconferences with the Hemp Association. We'll keep that up. We are open to trying to provide you with explanations and, if need be, develop solutions to problems that allow us to reset that framework of risk and benefit, given the market is changing, given the evidence is changing, given that you've spent 10 years growing product, and to my knowledge, we've never had any problems. I don't believe we've had a single prosecution either. Why would we say, it's timely. Good stewardship means we should go back and look at that and say, is it really necessary anymore? Given the other changes we're making, maybe we need to revisit some of the fundamental assumptions that's in that act. My policy colleagues sitting in the front row here are probably A, taking notes, and B, probably going, oh my God, what has he just said? The amount of work involved here. But that's what regulatory stewardship's all about. Our job is to defend what might feel like the indefensible to you, but at the same time be open to hearing better ways of doing things, re-examining where we stand in risk and benefit, and making sure, if you like, our vision ultimately for you is that our legislation is not an impediment to the growth of a sector unless impeding that sector poses harm to the community. That's the bottom line for us. It's about people and making sure that the legal framework is such that there isn't harm possible to the community through what we do. The evidence in CBD is getting better and better, industrial, it's all about where are we at in this point in time? Where is the evidence at? And we are open to that discussion. I'm getting the noise. I guess I kind of let him speak on a bit longer because I thought that uses up the question time. So there was a vested interest there. I'm happy to take questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Stewart. Round of applause, ladies and gents.